You ever notice how sometimes the only thing standing between you and your own peace is the neighbor across the street? I mean, what would you do if someone called the cops on you for working your own land, only to find out you are the law? Yeah, that happened. I'll never forget the day I realized the fight wasn't just about dirt and crops, but about who gets to decide where you belong. My name's Robert Jameson. I'm 42, and every inch of my farm just outside Mesa, Arizona, I earned the hard way: blood, sweat, skipped vacations, saving every spare dollar for years. That red barn at the back of my property? It's not just a building. It's the proof that a man can build something that lasts, something that matters, even if the whole world seems to want him gone. But the world doesn't always come at you with a wrecking ball. Sometimes it wears a pressed blouse and carries a clipboard. Her name's Linda Cartwright, president of the local HOA, a woman who rules this patch of suburbia like she's the mayor of a town no one voted for. You ever meet someone who just can't stand the sight of something they don't control? That was Linda, watching from her porch every morning, eyes sharp as a hawk, as if she was just waiting for me to make a mistake. First week I moved in, she marched over, clipboard in hand, wanted to know why I had so much machinery, why my barn was disrupting the look of the community. I tried to play it cool, explain the zoning, explain the permits, reminded her that my land wasn't under the HOA. Didn't matter. To her, I was the crack in her perfect sidewalk, the rust on her manicured lawn. And once someone like Linda decides you're the problem, well, buckle up. The looks, the notes, the whispers at meetings about standards and property values, like I was dragging down the whole block just by working. I tried to keep my head down, focus on the farm, but you know how it is. When someone is that committed to making your life hell, you feel it every day, like an itch you can't scratch. One night I'm sitting on the porch, phone lights up, my sister checking in, asking if I'm settling in. I almost typed the truth. The land's good, but the people, but I just say, I'll be fine. Because that's what you do. You don't complain. You stand your ground, work harder. But Linda, she wasn't satisfied. The subtle stuff turned into little digs, anonymous notes in the mailbox, new noise violations posted on my fence, and once, fresh tire tracks on my land that sure as hell didn't come from any of my trucks. I didn't need a map to know who was behind it. When I mentioned it to Carl, my neighbor, he just shrugged. She's like that with anyone she doesn't like. Thanks, Carl, super reassuring. The pressure built, week by week. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was out by the barn, sun barely up, sweat already trickling down my neck, when I hear the familiar stomp of heels on gravel. Linda, looking like she was headed to war. No clipboard this time, just pure determination. You're done, she says, right out loud. Not even a good morning. She tells me if I don't remove my equipment by the end of the week, she'll call the police. Now, I'm not one to lose my cool, but I told her straight, you can call whoever you want, but you're not gonna like how it turns out. She just smirked, turned on her heel, and that's when I knew she was about to take this further. And sure enough, the showdown happened fast. Saturday morning, I'm unloading equipment, doing what I've always done, when Linda storms over, voice raised, making sure half the block can hear. You're violating everything this neighborhood stands for. Neighbors start gathering, some pretending to trim hedges, some flat out staring, all waiting to see what happens next. I try to explain, again, about the zoning, about the permits, about how I'm not breaking a single law. She's not hearing any of it. She's convinced if she makes enough noise, I'll cave. She pulls out her phone, voice trembling with righteous fury, and calls 911. Right there, in front of everyone, telling the dispatcher there's a dangerous man refusing to leave her property. For a second, the world goes silent. All I can hear is the blood pounding in my ears and the sound of neighbors whispering, shifting from foot to foot, as if they're not sure who to believe anymore. And I'm standing there, watching Linda work herself into a frenzy, knowing this could go south, fast. But here's where it twists. Because when the squad car rolls up, sirens wailing, I recognize the deputies, Carla Monroe and Luis Ortega, good people, folks I've worked with at the sheriff's office. Linda rushes over, spinning her story, pointing at my barn, my truck, me. Carla's face stays calm. Ma'am, This is his property. Linda tries to argue, but Ortega shuts it down. The HOA doesn't override county zoning. We know whose land this is. That's when I step forward, pull out my badge, let the sunlight hit that silver star. The crowd goes dead quiet. I don't just know the law. I tell her. I enforce it. You just called 911 on a deputy sheriff, standing on his own land. Yeah, you could have heard a pin drop. For once, Linda's got nothing to say. Carla turns to her. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a serious offense. Did he threaten you? Linda tries to talk circles, but everyone can see right through her. Suddenly, the whole block sees her for what she is. A bully who finally pushed too far. You could feel the shift. People who used to nod along with Linda started looking at her like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the queen bee after all. Some even apologized to me later, quietly, when no one else was around. We shouldn't have let her sway us, Sharon told me, her voice shaky. I see how hard you work every day. That meant something. But not everyone let go so easy. Rumors started, whispers that I used my badge to intimidate her, that I'd embarrassed her on purpose. You know what I mean? It never really ends with folks like Linda. They either lash out, or they plot the next move. A few days later, at the HOA meeting, I sat at the back, just listening. Linda tried to rally everyone, make it about protecting the community. But this time, people pushed back. One guy stood up and said, "We're making ourselves look bad." Another neighbor said, "Harassing someone for working their land isn't community spirit." And for the first time, Linda's voice didn't carry the room. I spoke up, kept it simple. Neighbors should look out for each other, not tear each other down. A little applause, a lot of thoughtful silence. No drama, just truth. After that, things shifted for good. People started waving as they passed. Sharon brought cookies over, told me her son had watched the whole thing, and asked her why people could be so unfair. That hit me, because kids see what matters. They see action, not rumors or power trips. I told her, sometimes you have to show people the truth, not with anger, but with patience. I wasn't going to let one HOA president decide if I belonged here or not. But Linda didn't quit. She filed more complaints, sent nasty newsletters, tried to spin the story her way, but the block had seen too much. The more she tried, the less anyone listened. Eventually, even the folks who'd always backed her started keeping their distance. One evening, Greg, the neighbor who'd stood there during the standoff, came by while I was fixing the fence. He said, "For years, we thought Linda was keeping the place together. Turns out, she was just keeping everyone scared." I laughed. Fear only works until someone calls it out. That's the truth, right there. Respect doesn't come from making noise. It comes from showing up, day after day, doing the work, living with integrity. In the end, it took one false 911 call, one standoff in the Arizona sun, for everyone to see who really belonged, and who was just playing pretend. I can't say Linda ever admitted defeat, but she lost her hold on this neighborhood the second the truth came out. And while I'd love to tell you that fixed everything, the real world's messier than that. Some folks will always cling to the story that feels safest, but most, they saw what they needed to see. So what would you do if your neighbor tried to write you out of your own story? Would you fight back? Walk away? Or would you let your actions speak louder than their words? Let me know what you think, because this kind of thing, it's bigger than one farm, one street, or even one bad neighbor. It's about standing your ground, living with dignity, and reminding folks that respect isn't something you demand, it's something you earn. Drop your thoughts below. Who do you think was right? What makes a community work, anyway? And if you want more stories like this, you know what to do.